This is Steve. Steve goes into another regular H&M store to buy a shirt for the unbelievable price of just €3. However, have you ever asked yourself how come it is that cheap? Or is it really that cheap? Let's take a closer look at that and dive right into the true cost of this shirt. Let's get into some straight facts. Did you know that the world consumes a staggering 80 billion pieces of clothing each year? Consequently, 1 in 6 people work in the global fashion industry. If you think this is something positive, I'm sorry to disappoint you here. Way over 60% of our world's garments are manufactured in developing countries, and there is a reason for this. Big clothing brands such as H&M identified these countries as the cheapest way to make their apparel. These brands exploit these remote countries by making use of their bad economic situation and the non-existing or very bad human rights. As years passed, the people in the countries and the government became increasingly dependent on the fashion industry. Today, several countries are almost completely at the mercy of the big fashion brands. These even blackmail the so-called sweatshops by demanding even cheaper prices, otherwise they would simply move their business onto a different supplier. To stay in competition, such sweatshops have no choice but to bow down before the power of these brands. Since these countries have hardly any human rights at all, and the fashion industry's sole concern is low prices, everything else suffers as a consequence. For example, garments are produced using toxic but cheap chemicals. In Bangladesh alone, 22,000 liters of toxic waste is dumped into rivers every day. I won't even get into the obvious implications concerning the local drink water and our ocean. To summarize, the fashion industry is the world's second largest polluter behind the oil industry. Furthermore, it is getting worse, without any key changes in sight. However, not only in the sweatshops do people suffer. Let's go one step back in the supply chain where the cotton is made. Developing countries have close to 100 million rural households growing cotton. Due to the decreasing prices, such farmers are under constant downward pressure to decrease their prices even though they are already struggling. Farmers are often forced to sell at a price which is below the cost of production. In addition to this, multinational companies talk cotton farmers into planting genetically modified cotton in the hope of increasing yields and income. In reality, however, the farmers are tied into buying expensive seeds and pesticides each year. Since the soil and crops become dependent on those changes, it results in a vicious cycle for cotton farmers. Many are seriously indebted. Partly as a result of this, 250,000 cotton farmers have killed themselves in India alone over the past 15 years. Don't you agree that this already puts buying fast fashion into a completely different light? Don't you think Steve should pay more attention to what he's buying, and maybe, so should you? You are the reason this supply chain exists in the first place. If everyone comes to notice about this horrible truth, and trust me when I say I haven't even begun to tell you about the bad stuff, we can make a huge difference by simply spending our money on, for example, fair trade clothing instead. This would make the vital impact we need. Even if it means spending a bit more money and keeping hold of a piece of clothing for a bit longer, it is worth the trade. Don't you agree? How about you start by raising awareness and sharing this video? And next time, think about the true costs of your shirt.